Isn't that an interesting passage that what Andrew just read? Did it sound a little morbid, a little gloomy to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a pessimist.
Huh?
He's a pessimist.
Yeah. Funny thing is, it's one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And do you want to know why I chose this text? Probably not, but I'm going to tell you anyways. So I did an in-depth study on this book and in this text while I was in seminary about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And the funny thing is, the reason why I chose this text is because I wanted to know if drinking alcohol was a sin or not. You see, I grew up Pentecostal, and for a long time, it was my belief that alcohol was a sin. And drinking alcohol was a sin. And it wasn't until I went to seminary that I began to rethink this belief. I began to see people who loved God have a cold one with the boys. I began to see people drink, and I started questioning it. I said, man, I thought alcohol was a sin, and yet here I am in seminary studying about God, and all the pastors are drinking alcohol. And I mean, not all of them, but some of them. And so I began to question my belief about it. So anyways, I decided to do a study on this on every Bible, on every text that dealt with alcohol in the Bible. And this is one of them that came up. And if you want to know where I landed on that spectrum, you're just gonna have to take me out to coffee or lunch for that information. But yeah, so back to the sermon and back to the text. The other day I was on Facebook, and I was scrolling through, flipping through, and I came across a story on it. Am I standing too close to the speaker?
No, turn it down.
And I read a story on ABC 30's Facebook page. You guys might have heard of it or read it. It was about the story about the woman who was pregnant, and she was driving home with her husband and their 2 young boys from a Christmas party on Christmas. And a car ran a red light and hit them. It knocked the pregnant woman unconscious, and it killed the father, and it injured the 2 boys. In an interview the woman the woman said she just remembers waking up because it knocked her out. She woke up, she turned around, she lifted her husband's head, she gave him a kiss, and she said, "Wake up, please." She said his eyes were wide open, but at that moment she knew that he was gone. My heart just dropped when I read that story. I couldn't imagine the pain, the hurt, the emotions that she was going through, what the children are going through. This story also caused me to reflect on my own mortality. I have a wife, I have 2 children. We drive often. We drove here to church this morning. A car can hit us. A car can run a red light. I can run a red light accidentally, and a car can hit us, right? And just like that, somebody is gone. Have you guys ever really thought about death? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I don't know if you're like me. In our culture, we don't really talk about it. It's morbid. It's morbid. It's one of those things that we shy away from. We want to be happy. We want to be joyous. And we want to experience those emotions. And death is just this thing that we don't want to avoid, but we don't talk about it often. And the funny thing is, it happens to all of us. Every one of us in this room has to face it one day. And the crazy thing is, none of us know when or how it's going to happen. The author of this book, Ecclesiastes, that was one of his points. I don't know, have you guys ever read the book of Ecclesiastes before? Yeah, some say it's a depressing book. People will probably advise you to stay away from it, but I love it. It's about this man who goes on a journey. He embarks on this journey, and he wants to discover what the meaning of life is. He wants to know, what in the world is man here for? Or what brings meaning to man? So he it says he does everything and all things. That one, he tests it with pleasure. He wants to know, okay, is there any meaning in pleasure? And so he does whatever he wants. Anything his eyes want, he gets. He indulges himself in pleasure, and at the end of that, he discovers, man, this too is vain. It's chasing the wind. And then he goes and he says, okay, maybe I'll find meaning in work. And so he works day and night. He builds his house, he gets vineyards, and he just works and toils all day, hoping that he'll find some type of meaning in that. And again, he discovers, man, what am I doing? This is chasing the wind. There's no meaning here either. 6 to 7 times in the book of Ecclesiastes, after he does all these things, those are only 2 things. He does a lot of other things trying to discover what's the meaning. At the end of the day, this is what he says. I discover that there is nothing better to do than to eat, drink, and be happy. To work, to have one hand full of work and the other hand full of tranquility. One without the other is like bacon with no eggs, like rice with no beans. Can you imagine that? And so, throughout the book, he's realizing, man, no matter how you live, you can live your life to the best of your ability, being the most righteous person, or you cannot give up. You know what? And be wicked. You can be either person. You can be short, you can be tall. You can go to the temple and offer sacrifices, or you cannot go to the temple and not offer sacrifices, and yet you're still going to die. At the end of the day, you're still going to die. And so throughout the book, he makes that point. Man, we're going to die. I might as well eat, drink, and be merry, and be happy, and enjoy what God has given me. And so, the reason why I love this text is because it reminds me to do something that I don't often do. You see, I too get caught up in the struggle of trying to build an empire, trying to work, trying to, trying to accumulate more things, trying to pursue certain things that at the end of the day are very meaningless. And I often forget about the things that really do matter. And this text reminds me of like, hey, you got to go to work. Yeah, you got to do those things, but you also got to take the time to enjoy what God has given you. And that's why I love this text, because it's giving us permission to enjoy life. Not just enjoy life, but to enjoy it with the ones we love. Listen to what it says. Go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart. For God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. For this is your lot in life, and your toilsome labor under the sun. He's giving, you know how it says, always be clothed in white and anoint your head with oil? It's almost like saying dress up as if you're going to a party. It's okay. Every once in a while, get dressed up. Go out on a night on the town. Enjoy dinner. He's giving us permission to do these type of things. To enjoy what we have in front of us, your wife, your husband, your partner, your loved ones, your kids, and your grandchildren. This is what he's saying is important about spending time with them. You know, taking time to do certain things. Go to the park. Have a barbecue. There are all sorts of things that God has given us to do. And this text is a reminder for us to do them. Since Cindy caught the flu, I've been watching Juliana. Him and I have been sleeping in the living room for the last 4 days, making ourselves a little bed on there. And I've spent more time with him, and I've gotten to know him, and he's gotten to know me more than I have in these last 4 days in the past 5 months. I think sometimes I come home, because Cindy's the one that spends time with him. Sometimes I come home and I'm like, does he know who I am? Because you feel that way sometimes, right? Like your child doesn't know you yet. And these last 4 days just been like, man, I've got to spend this time with him, and it's been great. And so I want to ask Alan, I've asked Alan to share a few words with us of what he does to enjoy life, and if there's anything that he has to share on how we can enjoy life.
No problem. The line comes right over here. We'll just take turns. Boy, I love this topic. You're going to have to stop me here because I could just go on and on. It's you want to talk about life? Chad is in my life. He lived with us for 6 years and went to Stockton. He's been there 2 or 3 years, and then he came back for Christmas. It was great. And we talk about life, and what are you doing? And is it working? And it's good. So that is part of what's good is relationships. Hector says, you don't know when and you don't know why you're going to die. But a couple of years ago, I sat in front of a doctor who said, well, let's see, you had it this long, and so you've got about 4.5 years and you're going to die of cancer. It's like, wow, I know when and I know why. But then, Hugh's announcement about the bone scan, I had that too. They said, well, we want to scan you to see how many lesions you've got. Right? And they said, yeah, if it's more than 10, we do it one way. And anyway, it was only one. And they said, well, maybe we can just radiate that one and see what happens. So I'm in that see what happens stage. And so if you want to really do Ecclesiastes, what is life all about? Number 1, retire. And number 2, get a death sentence. And then number 3, get a reprieve. Because then it's like, woo, we can do whatever we want. We don't have a job. Our house is paid off. Man, we can do whatever we want. What is it? What is it that's really good in life? So, it's funny you should say about Emiliano because we had Noah, who's 2, for almost a week. And if you want a mess, put 4 kids together in bed and tell them to go to sleep. And one of them's 2. Didn't work. Did not work. So we said, okay, you 3 go to sleep. We'll take Noah. And so it's king size bed. Me, Noah, April, no problem, right? Unless it's me and then Noah sideways and then April over here on the edge. But we bonded. I even put that picture on Facebook about, I woke up and he was sleeping on me. And that was cool. He's throwing himself around until finally he feels me and there's some warmth and some person and that's good. I'm going to go to sleep right now. So that's part of it. You have kids or grandkids and relationships and a never-ending source of joy for me. But then, they become teenagers. And young people, sometimes you see young people doing horrible things. And so Hector said, yeah, and if I have any advice on how to live a good life, I should share that with my friends here at First Christian. And I was just thinking about this. I was thinking about, people, I see my children doing things that are not wise. And so then I thought about the whole advice thing, and when I get advice, and and then I thought, okay, here's a good plan. Don't give anybody advice. But that's not real good either, because we share and say, well, this is what brings me joy. And a lot of my joy is in this room. I just love it when Hector preaches. The Raising Tutors play. Jordan does his thing. I can practically name every one of you about, Christian Cafe or dogs or all the things, camp, music. It's great. So one chunk of my retirement happiness is church. When Hector first asked me, he said, what things bring you joy? And I thought he meant physical things. And see this railing right here? That's one of them. There was no rail here, and somebody suggested we should put a rail there, and I said, no, that interrupts the beauty, the elegance of the front, and And it hasn't ever been there, and so it's probably a bad idea, but they convinced me. So now, every time I see somebody going up here and put their hand here, I love that. So sometimes, the second chunk of my life is to make things, fix things. I told you Kim wanted to make a coffee table with me. We're making progress. We got the whole top done and part of the edge, and that's great. That feeds me. Pardon me. That was George. He says he can't work on the trees this week. If anybody wants to work on trees this week, we're going to take out 2 trees over there and 2 trees over there. Sorry. But that's part of my happiness. I like taking out trees. You get to use a chainsaw. So that's another chunk to make and fix. The church or home or parsonage. April is my biggest chunk. If you want to be happy, marry a godly man or woman. I mean, come on. That's worked for me. I've always considered myself the luckiest person on earth to be born in my family and in this church and go to college and want to be a teacher. No, I'm a teacher. I love teaching. It's great, and that continues. I always thought that the best wife is one who did whatever you wanted. And it doesn't work that way. The best husband is the one that does whatever she wanted. So that's the way that you get wisdom. That's the way life goes smoothly. And it makes me a better person. If you never change, if you only get what you want, you're never going to learn. I mean, you're never going to change. I mean, how can you learn without changing? And usually, we don't like change. So, I'm in a good place. I have concerns. My mom is not doing so hot. She can't remember anything. And our, kids are moving and changing jobs and doing different things and struggling with this and that. And so, I have concerns, but I'm learning to try to deal with them. Maybe, I do believe the guy in Ecclesiastes was a pessimist. He said, oh, it's all vain, it's all vain. Maybe it's all good. Being married is good. Fixing things in church is good. Having relationships is good. Having grandkids is good. So it's that goodness. The goodness, he does give us permission. Yeah, have a good time. It's okay. And remember the Puritans, don't play cards, no music, don't drink, don't do any of that stuff. It's too fun. So I believe that they were wrong. And I believe that Hector is right, and that we should be enjoying life. And that doesn't mean that every day is going to be enjoyable, but there's a trend here. And we know people that are not happy, people that are depressed. And I heard on the radio an ad for this place, if you're depressed and the medicine doesn't work, well then we have some electroshock treatments that might help you. I'm thinking, man, that sounds irreversible. What if it doesn't work? But I do believe that God is good. That some people totally believe in God and their life is tough, but there's goodness in that foundation. Somehow people that have this belief in God and a tough life, they do okay. I mean, look at Mother Teresa. She had a terrible life. I mean, a tough, not terrible, but tough, difficult days on end. And she was faithful, and praise God. I think we can do that too.
Oh, and if you have any questions, I'll be available later.
Thank you, Alan. So I know it's Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Let this text be a reminder that sometimes that the things that matter in life that we think that matter in life sometimes really don't matter, right? Our jobs, you know, our careers, our professions, you know, they do matter, but at the end of the day that God has given us, I'm sure one day when I'm gone, Isaac will he remember the Jordans I bought him? Or would he remember the time that I spent with him? At the end of the day, these are things that really matter. And don't hear me wrong, you know, the author's not giving us permission to go, you know, rack up credit card debt because we're gonna die. He's not giving us permission to go get, you know, drunk, you know, to have 20 bottles of wine. It's not. It's quite the opposite. It's saying, look, enjoy life. Work hard, but don't remember what's important. Enjoy life. And so let this be a reminder to you and I that one day we're going to pass. There's nothing we can do about it. So why not enjoy what God has given us? Amen.